Okay, now's come the time to give the poem a close reading. Okay, we start with the title always, The Clown Punk. I think this juxtaposition is something we're going to see throughout the poem, but right away, what kind of punk is it? The adjective clown is used. And this is surprising and strange, but right away I get the sense of something negative. And we have to think about what is the attitude of the speaker to this punk. And I'm not exactly clear, but I think it's something right from the title that's brought into play. Yes, it's surprising, but is it demeaning? Or is the speaker actually saying something else? Driving home through the shonky side of town, that word shonky sticks out to me right away. Shonky reminds me of wonky. It's kind of the same. It's a slang. It's slang. This is not the nice part of town. It begs the question of why is the speaker actually driving through it? Or, moreover, has the speaker actually been to this part of town before? Is it somewhere he doesn't go to anymore? When in this part of town, 3 times out of 10, you get that really kind of probability or gambling type language. You see the town clown. Now here, the word town gets repeated, but its meaning changes. On this part of the town, we actually see this rhyme here of the town joke, basically. And he's a joke because suggested in the next few lines how he dresses. Because he looks like a basket of washing that got up and walked. Here we have this idea of perhaps homelessness. It's shabby. Maybe even a bit shonky again. We get an idea, an image of a man who doesn't really take care of himself, who isn't even there. It's almost just like a bunch of clothing. And this inhuman aspect gets picked up in the next part with the verb towing. He's not carrying or pulling or a dog on a rope, not on a leash, but on a rope. Again, you get this ridiculous, humorous picture, something of what's in a circus. But ends the first stanza. There's a kind of hanging notion. Now, why is that? We can talk about the effects in the poem later, but this enjambment gives this poem a conversational quality. Like a basket of washing that got up and walked, towing a dog on a rope. But don't laugh. Every pixel of that man's skin is shot through with indelible ink. I wonder who the speaker is actually telling not to laugh. Is it himself or his kids, who we learn about later? But don't laugh. I mean, he may be a clown, but don't laugh. He may be ridiculous, carrying, not even pulling, towing his dog on a rope, not a leash, and he may look just like a bunch of shabby, multicolored clothing, but I don't want you to laugh. Because every single dot, every pixel, that word really sticks out. Every single, I'm sure you know that from your screen, every single dot on that man's skin is shot through with indelible ink. Permanent ink. Covers this man's body. And it's every single dot. I don't know why that's something I shouldn't laugh about. Is it because of that word shot? That there might be a suggestion of something more violent? As he steps out in the traffic lights, think of what he'll look like in 30 years' time. Again, the speaker's asking, he's ordering someone else. He's using the imperative of the verb, a command. He's telling us, perhaps, to do something, think. He's asking his kids, perhaps, to think or imagine what he'll look like in 30 years' time. But actually, you know what? I think he's asking himself to do that. Because in the next stanza, right away, he does see it. He sees what this punk is going to look like in 30 years' time. He's going to look like an emptied out balloon. His face is going to be deflated. It's going to be flabby. All the energy will be pulled out of it. And the scalp itself will shrink. and wither. He uses shrunken, but I see wither, age, get old, lose power. All those images are going to happen to this poor man in 30 years' time. And there's an effect that this poem does, which is an accumulation of images too. You notice he says, the deflated face and shrunken scalp. And then he goes on to describe the scalp. So the scalp will shrink, but it'll be dabbed, smeared with tattoos. And what kind of tattoos? Punk tattoos. But here the adjectives are really important. Why are these tattoos sad? And what is high punk? The use of high here reminds me of, if anyone learns German, there's a phrase called High German. Or if you are Anglican and you know about High Anglicanism, the adjective high here is in reference to the authentic, the austere, the romantic, the highest version of punk. And punk was in the late 70s, way before my time, but still quite present in my imagination. A movement in American music in the 70s that was style. Doc Martens. I see spiked hair, piercings, black makeup, audacious, antisocial, screaming music, undisciplined, raging against everything in society, countercultural, rejecting the love of the hippies, almost bordering on violence. And high punk would be someone who really held to those values. But now it's sad. It's kind of pathetic. And it's not really funny, so you shouldn't laugh, because it isn't, even though he's a clown, this punk who because of his politics and aesthetics has decided to look a certain way, now kind of looks ridiculous, and it's not really funny. And the man turns to the children in the back seat and tells them, hey, you kids in the back seat who wince and scream. I think this is something you got to think about with the character and voice poems, is this man, this punk, makes children scream. He's a monster. He's an outsider. And punk was something that wanted him. High punk wanted to be outside culture, but now he's something of a monster. He's a joke and a monster. He makes kids scream, like clowns do. Clowns are both funny and terrifying. And these kids wince, they pull away, they scream. When the man slathers, I love that verb. He doesn't just rub, he slathers his daft mush on the window screen. Daft, stupid mush. This is because, I guess, in my city, the punks do this as well. They wait at stoplights, and then they wash your windshield. And they rub this, or they slather this mush, this stupid mush all over the screen. And it makes the kids scream. It's like a form of entertainment. The speaker of the poem says, look, when you do that, I want you to do something else. I want you to remember. I think this is the key word of this poem. I want you to remember the clown punk with his dyed brain. It's like he's asking his kids to remember this. It's like this poem is a kind of memorial to this punk who's now become a clown. And his brain is so multicolored that even his brain itself is multicolored. And he wants his kids to remember that punk. And then he's asking them right away to picture, to imagine the windshield wipers and let it rain. As if to say, let the image wash away. So it's as if, for me, the poem's saying, remember and forget. Now, there's something strange in this ending for me, because I feel like it's this ending that makes me think the poem's about something else. This poem, if you care about such things, is actually in the form of a sonnet. Is it 1 T or 2 T's? I can't remember. It is a sonnet, and It's I think it's one T. I don't know why I'm doing two T's. And classic theme of a sonnet is memory, and how people will deteriorate, but poems themselves are ways of memorializing or remembering someone, and thus the images and the imaginings of this person become permanent. The poet themselves are the ones that get to decide. But I wonder if there's something else going on. That the man thinks, the man speaking, and after all, with these kinds of poems, we can ask ourselves, what do we know about the speaker? Why is he so interested in this character? This poem is conversational, seemingly, but don't laugh. Every pixel of his man. That enjambment makes it really seem conversational. And like this poem is really thrown together. But like I said, it is a sonnet. It's very purposefully constructed. And that enjambment isn't random. It's to get that rhyme with up. So even though it enjambs here, those rhymes are there constructed on purpose. So even though this poem itself might seem like it was just came out of the laundry bag, perhaps the precision with which it was put together belies something else. I leave you with these questions. How does this man actually feel about this punk rocker? And what is it about him that obsesses the speaker so much? The man is looking really closely at him, and he's thinking about him, and he's seen him a bunch of times. I mean, every time he drives through this neighborhood, 3 times out of the 10, he'll see him. And he's imagining him, and it means something to him. And maybe we might even say he's obsessing a little bit about him. And then in the end, finally he asks his kids to remember, and then in a way wash away that memory. Why is that? I want to understand. So I recommend that you read this poem a number of times, and definitely read it out loud, and think about what is this character who's speaking? What do we learn about him, not just the person he's looking at?